If you work in HR, this episode might feel uncomfortably familiar. We're going to talk about the things that don't make it into the policy, the conversations that start with, this probably shouldn't be an HR issue, and absolutely are. The moments where she'll be right quietly becomes, oh no. This isn't an episode about fixing HR. It's about recognising it, particularly in an Australian context. If you've ever been asked for a quick chat that ruined your lunch, this one's for you. Welcome to Reimagining HR with Trina Sunday, the rule-breaking podcast where we challenge our thinking and our current people practices. This podcast is for time-poor HR teams and business leaders who are feeling the burn, lacking laughs, and not feeling the love. I'm Trina, your host, and I'm here to cut through the BS, explore different ways of thinking, and create high-impact HR functions. Because happier, healthier organisations are better for our people and our bottom line. So if you are keen to flip traditional HR on its head, hit the follow or subscribe button so you're the first to know when new episodes drop. I'm here to help and also to shake things up. So let's get started. This episode's dropping on 26th of January, which I know carries very different meanings for different people here in Australia. For me, I know that celebrating on today's date hurts people, and I'm in the business of protecting and honouring people, not harming them. And that value carries across everything I do in my work. HR leadership starts with being willing to acknowledge discomfort without amplifying it, politicising it, or turning it into a performance. Today's episode isn't about Australia Day. It's about leadership in an Australian context, and more specifically, HR leadership. And yes, we're going to have a bit of fun with it, because if HR couldn't laugh occasionally, most of us would have left a very long time ago. HR in Australia is a very specific flavour, right? If you've worked in HR in Australia, you'll know this straight away. We're casual until we're not. We're flat until hierarchy suddenly appears like a drop bear. We call the CEO Dave. We often wear sneakers to meetings, and we pride ourselves on being practical. And then someone says, Fair Work might have a view on that, and suddenly everyone's posture changes. Australian HR leaders live in this constant dual reality. One minute you're talking about culture over a flat white, the next minute you're knee-deep in awards, clauses, consultation obligations, and someone asking, can't we just do what we did last time? Which, for the record, is never a comforting sentence. She'll be right. It's Australia's most dangerous HR phrase. She'll be right is basically Australia's unofficial risk management framework. It usually means, let's not escalate, don't make a fuss, we'll deal with it later. Until later arrives with a grievance, a Fair Work claim, or a very surprised manager saying, I didn't think it was that serious. Australian HR leaders hear every variation of it. It was just a joke. That's not how I meant it. They've never complained before. We're like a family here. Which is usually when HR quietly thinks, yes, and that's exactly the problem. Your job becomes translating she'll be right into, oh my God, let's just put that in writing. Let's slow down. Let's not say that in an email. And for love of God, please stop saying that out loud. That's not bureaucracy. That's experience. Quick side note, and if you work in HR, you'll know exactly what I mean. Any meeting that starts with, can I just grab you for a quick chat, is never quick. It's like 45 minutes at best. Has a backstory. There's at least one sentence that starts with, I probably shouldn't say this, but, and somehow by the end of it, you're across a conflict you didn't know existed, a decision that's already been made without you, and a situation that absolutely should have been documented 6 months ago. If HR had a superpower, it would be this, turning quick chats into risk mitigation and doing it calmly while you mentally cancel your lunch. But what about tall poppy syndrome and our quiet influence? Like in Australia, confidence is fine as long as it's understated. Leadership's respected as long as you don't look like you're enjoying it too much. And Australian HR leaders learn quickly that influence matters more than title. Credibility is earned quietly. And if you talk yourself up too much, somebody will absolutely cut you down over the sausage sizzle. So HR leadership here tends to be pragmatic. It's grounded, typically low ego. You don't hear I transformed the culture. You hear, we made a few changes, it seems to be working, which in Australia equates to, I moved mountains quietly and didn't need applause. That restraint, that's cultural intelligence. But informal culture, very formal consequences. Australian workplaces love informality. Open offices, no titles, emails that start with, hey mate. But we also operate in one of the most regulated employment environments in the world, which means HR leaders spend a lot of time gently explaining things like, impact still matters, even if you were joking. Common sense is not a legal defense. And no, you can't just have a quiet word and hope that it goes away. You do this calmly, with patience, often with a facial expression that says, I cannot believe I'm explaining this again. Or writing a new policy, the ones that fix everything. Because just quickly, every organisation has the policy, right? The one that will finally fix behaviour. It's usually drafted after a situation. It's really thorough. It's got headings, subheadings, potentially even a flowchart. And everyone feels better once it's approved. Until the next situation happens, which is slightly different, in a slightly different team with slightly different people, at which point we all realise, once again, that policies don't change behaviour. People do. But sure, let's update the policy. Let's go with that. Industrial relations, right? That's Australia's favourite contact sport. Australian industrial relations deserves its own category and its own podcast episode. Awards that overlap, enterprise agreements with footnotes, consultation clauses that are interpretive. Australian HR leaders can go from a values conversation straight into a clause interpretation without missing a beat. When consultation's genuine, when it's procedural, and when someone is about to learn the hard way. Fair work isn't a vibe, it's a reality. And you carry that responsibility quietly so others don't have to. If we were an Australian version of The Office that's centred around HR, the main character would be painfully familiar. They're practical, they're tired, they've got 17 browser tabs open. That's not very many, compared to mine anyway. 17 browser tabs open. One of them's probably Fair Work, and one of them an Excel spreadsheet called, final _ version 27 _ really final. They say things like, let's just pause for a second. Have you documented that? And yes, you can do that. But should you? They've mastered the art of saying no without saying no, translating nonsense into something workable, and keeping a straight face in meetings that absolutely do not deserve one. They know that people are complicated, systems are not perfect, and that no policy survives first contact with reality. And yet, they still show up, which is honestly heroic. And who doesn't love a heroine? We all love a hero. But this is why I love working with Australian HR. I've worked in Australia, Asia, and Europe. Each context brings something different. But what I love about Australian HR is the groundedness, the practicality, the humour, and the quiet moral compass. Australian HR leaders tend to ask, what's the fair thing to do here? What's the right thing to do here? How will this actually land? And how do we make this workable in the real world? There's less theatre, less ego, common sense, the useful kind. Despite the challenges, contradictions, and complexity, this is work I genuinely love. And it's people I genuinely respect. So wherever you're listening from, in Australia or elsewhere, I hope this episode felt a little too accurate. The kind where you laugh and then realise it's because you lived it. This wasn't about wrapping things up neatly. It was about recognising the skill it takes to do HR well in Australia, reading the room, holding the line, and somehow keeping things human when they really shouldn't be. If you've ever been pulled into the quick chat that required a notebook, a deep breath, and a strong coffee, you're doing important work. And that's got me reflecting on how I can show up for my HR community moving forward. But for now, take care, team. Thanks for tuning in and leaning in to this week's episode as we look to reimagine how we show up for our people, organisations and community. Reach out to us via our website at reimaginehr.com.au with your HR horror stories or suggestions of people you'd love to hear from or topics you want to explore. It's all about people, purpose and impact, and we are here for all of it. Until next time, take care, team.